Have you ever stared at your bank account and wondered where all your money went, like it vanished into some mysterious financial black hole? You earn what seems like decent money, you try to be responsible, yet that dream of saving your first $100,000 feels about as realistic as finding a unicorn in your backyard. But here's something that might surprise you. Building that first 100,000 isn't reserved for lottery winners or people who inherited trust funds. Once you understand the real mechanics of wealth building and start using the right strategies, that milestone can happen much faster than you think. And here's what makes this number so powerful. It's not just another digit in your account. It's the exact moment when your money transforms from a lazy employee into a hardworking machine that generates serious returns. At $100,000, that 10% annual growth suddenly means $10,000 appearing in your account each year. Your investments start pulling their weight instead of just sitting there looking pretty. I'm Tim, and on this channel, I help you actually understand money so you can make calm, confident decisions about your life, including how to get from zero to that first $100,000 without losing your mind. So if that sounds helpful, make sure you hit subscribe and stick around. Most people approach saving money like they approach New Year's resolutions. They start with incredible enthusiasm, maybe even make some progress for a few weeks. Then life happens, motivation disappears, old habits creep back in, and before they know it, they're wondering why they're still stuck in the same place financially. The real problem isn't willpower. The real problem is the system they're using. Think about it this way. You could spend all day pouring water into a leaky bucket and still end up with nothing. That's exactly what happens to most people's money. They work incredibly hard to earn it, but they haven't fixed the leaks in their financial system. So instead of just yelling, "Stop buying coffee," while your biggest expenses are on fire, we're going to fix the big leaks: taxes, housing, investing strategy, lifestyle creep, and build systems that actually keep your money. The wealthy understand something that completely escapes most people. Building wealth isn't about living like a monk or making massive sacrifices that drain all joy from your life. It's about making intelligent decisions that compound over time. It's about understanding that every dollar you save today becomes multiple dollars in the future through the magic of compound growth. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great, but I'm starting from zero. I have student loans, credit card debt, and I'm barely keeping my head above water financially. I hear you, and I want you to know these strategies work regardless of your starting point. In fact, some are even more powerful when you're in the early stages of building wealth. The key is understanding that wealth building is a learnable skill. Just like driving a car or playing an instrument, nobody expects perfection right away, but with proper instruction and consistent practice, you can master it. The difference is this particular skill has the power to transform every aspect of your life, giving you freedom, security, and options you never had before. Let me walk you through 9 specific strategies that can accelerate your path to that first 100,000. Each one has the potential to save or earn you thousands of dollars annually. When you combine them together, they create a powerful system that can dramatically reduce the time it takes to reach your goal. Strategy 9. Use taxes to your advantage. Strategy number 9 is tax optimization, and this one will save you more money than you probably realize. I'm not talking about shady offshore accounts or pretending your Netflix subscription is a business expense. I'm talking about legitimate strategies the government actually wants you to use, but most people completely ignore. Taxes are probably one of your biggest expenses, right alongside housing and transportation. Yet, most people spend more time choosing their morning coffee than minimizing their tax burden. It's like voluntarily paying extra for everything you buy just because you didn't bother looking for the discount code sitting right in front of you. Tax-advantaged accounts, like traditional IRAs and 401ks, or your country's equivalent retirement accounts, give you an immediate discount on every dollar you invest. When you contribute to these accounts, you reduce your taxable income dollar for dollar. If you're making $50,000 annually and contribute $10,000 to your 401k, you only pay taxes on $40,000 of income. That's like getting a guaranteed return before your investments even start growing. Here's where it gets really interesting. If you're in the 22% tax bracket, every $1,000 you contribute to a traditional 401k saves you $220 in taxes. That means you only need $780 from your actual take-home pay to make a $1,000 investment. The government is essentially giving you a discount on building wealth, and most people are too busy complaining about taxes to take advantage. And speaking of money, The government and your employer are literally trying to hand you. Strategy 8, never leave free money on the table. Strategy number 8 literally gives you free money, yet millions of people leave it on the table every year. I'm talking about employer 401k matching. If you're not maximizing this, you're basically telling your boss you don't want a raise. Think about it this way. If your employer offers a 50% match on contributions up to 6% of your salary, they're giving you an immediate 50% return before the stock market even gets involved. Let's break this down with real numbers. If you make $50,000 annually and your employer matches 50 cents for every dollar up to 6% of your salary, you could contribute $3,000 and your employer would add another $1,500. That's $1,500 of completely free money just for participating. Show me another investment that guarantees a 50% return on day one. The crazy part is people will spend hours researching the best phone deal to save $50, but they'll leave thousands in employer matching on the table because they think they can't afford to contribute. It's like refusing a guaranteed winning lottery ticket because you're worried about the taxes on your winnings. Strategy 7, build extra income streams just for investing. Strategy number 7 is where we get into the really powerful stuff. I'm talking about creating additional income streams, specifically earmarked for investing. Notice I didn't say get a second job or work more hours at your current position. I said create additional income streams, and there's a huge difference. Traditional advice tells you to live below your means, which basically translates to making your life smaller so you can save more money. But there's another approach that's far more powerful and enjoyable. Expand your means while keeping your lifestyle constant. Instead of trying to squeeze every penny from your current income, focus on bringing in additional money that goes directly toward wealth building. The beauty of this approach is it doesn't feel like deprivation. You're not cutting back on things you enjoy. You're creating extra money that was never part of your regular budget. It's like finding money in your couch cushions, except instead of finding $20, you're finding hundreds or thousands monthly. This could be freelancing in your area of expertise or starting a small side business that operates evenings and weekends. The key is treating this extra income differently than your regular paycheck. Your regular income covers living expenses and lifestyle. This extra income has one job: building wealth. When you separate these mentally, it becomes much easier to save aggressively without feeling like you're sacrificing. Strategy 6, reinvest every dividend. Strategy number 6 will test your self-control, but it's absolutely crucial for maximizing returns. I'm talking about reinvesting every single dividend instead of spending it on something fun. I know it feels great when you see that dividend payment hit your account. It's like your investments are paying you a salary for being smart enough to own them. But here's what most people don't realize. The real power of dividend investing isn't in the income you can spend today. It's in the compound growth from reinvesting those payments. When you take dividends and buy more shares, you're getting more dividend-paying assets, which will pay even more dividends in the future, which you can use to buy even more shares. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and faster as it goes. Let me share some numbers that might shock you. Over the past century, the S&P 500 has averaged about 10.7% annual returns when dividends are reinvested. But if you had taken those dividends as cash instead of reinvesting, your average return would have been only 6.6%. That 4% difference might not sound like much, but over 30 years of investing, it's the difference between a comfortable retirement and wondering if you can afford to retire at all. This requires long-term thinking and resisting instant gratification. Every time you get a dividend payment, you have a choice: spend it on something that will be forgotten in weeks, or use it to buy more wealth-generating assets that will pay dividends for decades. Strategy 5, murder unnecessary investment fees. Strategy number 5 is about keeping more of what you earn by minimizing investment fees. This might sound boring, but it's one of the most important things you can do to accelerate wealth building. Investment fees are like a silent tax on your returns, and most people have no idea how much they're paying or how dramatically these fees impact long-term wealth. Investment fees might seem small annually, but they compound just like your returns do, except they compound against you. A fund charging 1% annual fees versus a fund charging 0.1% might not seem like a big deal, but over 30 years, that extra 0.9% in fees can cost you hundreds of thousands in lost returns. The good news is, in today's market, you don't need to pay high fees for excellent investment options. Index funds that track the S&P 500 or a similar total market index in your country are basically identical products regardless of which company offers them. There's no reason to pay more for the same thing. It's like choosing between two identical cars where one costs $30,000 and the other costs $35,000. Why pay more for the exact same product? When you're building your first $100,000, every dollar counts. Every dollar you save on fees is a dollar that can compound and grow over time. A little research up front can literally save you tens of thousands over your investing lifetime. Strategy 4, stop trying to be smarter than the market. Strategy number 4 will challenge everything you've been told about being a smart investor. I'm talking about resisting the urge to constantly buy and sell investments based on market movements. I know it sounds counterintuitive because we're surrounded by financial news that makes it seem like successful investing is all about timing the market perfectly, but that's complete nonsense. Trying to time the market is like trying to predict which elevator will arrive first in a busy office building. You might get lucky once or twice, but over time you'll end up frustrated and probably worse off than if you had just pressed the button and waited patiently. The data is crystal clear. The average investor who tries to time the market consistently underperforms the market itself by several percentage points annually. Think about what happens when you try to be clever with investments. The market drops 10%, and suddenly you're convinced this is the beginning of the next Great Depression. You sell everything, feeling smart for limiting losses. Then the market recovers and goes up 20%, but you're still sitting in cash, waiting for the right time to get back in. By the time you finally convince yourself it's safe to invest again, you've missed most of the recovery. The math here is brutal. If you miss just the 10 best days in the stock market over a 30-year period, your returns get cut almost in half. Here's the kicker. Those best days often happen right after the worst days when everyone is panicking and selling. So people trying to be smart by avoiding bad days end up missing the good days too. When you're building your first 100,000, your job is simple. Put money in consistently and leave it alone. Let the market do what it does best, which is grow over time. Some years will be great, some terrible, most somewhere in between. But if you stay the course and keep feeding the machine, you'll be amazed at what compound growth can accomplish. Strategy 3, choose simple, powerful investments. Strategy number 3 is about choosing the right investments. This is where most people either overthink it to death or don't think about it at all. Both approaches will cost you serious money. On one hand, you have people spending hours researching individual stocks, trying to find the next Amazon or Apple, usually ending up with a portfolio that looks like they threw darts at a financial newspaper. On the other hand, you have people who just put money wherever their coworker told them to, or worse, leave it sitting in a savings account earning basically nothing. Here's the truth about investment selection. When you're starting out, your goal should be solid, consistent growth, not hitting home runs. You're not trying to get rich quick, you're trying to get rich for sure. The best way to do this is investing in broad market index funds, particularly those tracking the S&P 500 or a similar broad market index where you live. This gives you ownership in about 500 of the largest, most successful companies in America, or hundreds of leading companies in your own market, all in one simple investment. When you buy an S&P 500 index fund, you own a piece of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and hundreds of other companies making money hand over fist. These aren't speculative bets on the next big thing. These are established businesses with proven track records of creating wealth for shareholders. The beauty of this approach is you don't need to be a financial genius to succeed. You don't need to read annual reports or analyze price-to-earnings ratios or figure out what the central bank will do next week. You just need to buy a piece of broad business success and let capitalism do what it does best. For younger investors decades away from retirement, you might even consider tilting slightly toward growth-oriented funds, which focus on rapidly expanding companies. These can be more volatile short-term, but when you have time on your side, that volatility becomes your friend because it gives you more opportunities to buy shares at discounted prices. Strategy 2, crush lifestyle inflation before it crushes you. Strategy number 2 is probably the most important on this entire list. It's what separates people who build real wealth from people who stay stuck in the financial hamster wheel forever. I'm talking about avoiding lifestyle inflation, and this is where most people completely sabotage their financial future without realizing it. Here's how this trap works. You start your career making $40,000 annually. You live in a modest apartment, drive a used car, and eat lots of pasta because that's what you can afford. Then you get a promotion and suddenly you're making $50,000. Instead of saving that extra $10,000, you decide you deserve a nicer apartment because you've worked hard for this raise. Then you get another raise to $60,000, and now you deserve a nicer car. Before you know it, you're making twice as much as when you started, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck. The wealthy understand something most people miss entirely. Your lifestyle should be based on what you want your life to look like, not on what you happen to be earning at the moment. Every time your income increases, you have a choice. You can either inflate your lifestyle to match your new income, or maintain your current lifestyle and invest the difference. Here's what's really crazy about lifestyle inflation. It doesn't even make most people happier. Studies show that once basic needs are met, additional spending has diminishing returns on happiness. That upgrade from a Honda Civic to a BMW might feel great for a few weeks, but then it just becomes your normal car. Meanwhile, that extra car payment prevents you from building the kind of wealth that could give you real freedom and security. The average millionaire saves a very large percentage of their income. Not because they're miserly or hate spending money, but because they understand every dollar saved today becomes several dollars in the future. They've learned to find satisfaction in growing their net worth rather than impressing people with expensive stuff. When you get your next raise, here's what I want you to do. Take at least half that increase and immediately set up an automatic investment. Don't even let it hit your checking account where you might be tempted to spend it. Treat it like a tax that goes directly to your future self. You can still enjoy some of that extra income, but make sure your wealth grows faster than your lifestyle. Strategy 1. Attack your housing costs. Now we've reached strategy number 1, the big one I've been building up to throughout this entire video. This strategy can free up more money in your budget than any other single change you can make. And most people are completely ignoring it. I'm talking about optimizing your housing costs, and yes, this might require decisions that go against conventional wisdom. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to discuss. If you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, you're making it nearly impossible to build wealth quickly. For most people, housing is by far their largest expense. When you add up rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, and maintenance, it often eats up 40, 50, or even 60% of monthly income. At that point, you're essentially working just to keep a roof over your head. But here's what's interesting about housing costs. They're often the most flexible part of your budget, even though people treat them like they're set in stone. You might think you need to live in a certain area or have a certain amount of space, but those are often lifestyle choices rather than actual necessities. I'm not suggesting you move into a cardboard box under a bridge, but I am suggesting you get creative about reducing this massive expense, at least temporarily, while building your foundation of wealth. This could mean getting roommates to split costs, moving to a less expensive area, or even exploring house hacking strategies where you buy a small multi-unit property and live in one unit while renting out the others. The numbers on this are absolutely staggering. Let's say you're currently spending $2,000 monthly on housing and you find a way to cut that to $1,200. That's $800 monthly you can now invest, which is nearly $10,000 annually. Over 20 years, assuming 10% annual returns, that single change could add over $500,000 to your net worth. I know what some of you are thinking. I can't just move or get roommates. I have a career, a family, responsibilities. I get it. And I'm not saying everyone can or should make dramatic changes to their housing situation, but I am saying if you're serious about building wealth quickly, you need to at least explore your options. Maybe you can't cut housing costs in half, but could you cut them by 20%. Even that would make a huge difference over time. The key is remembering this doesn't have to be permanent. You're not signing up for a lifetime of living like a college student. You're making a strategic sacrifice for a few years to set yourself up for decades of financial freedom. Once you've built that solid foundation of wealth, you can afford to live wherever you want because your investments will be covering a significant portion of your expenses. Here's the thing about all these strategies. They work best when used together. Each one amplifies the others, creating a powerful system that can dramatically accelerate your path to financial independence. Tax optimization saves money you can invest. Employer matching gives you free money to compound additional income streams, provide more fuel for the wealth-building fire. Reinvesting dividends maximizes returns. Low fees keep more money working for you. Avoiding market timing prevents costly mistakes. Choosing the right investments ensures solid growth. Avoiding lifestyle inflation keeps your savings rate high. And optimizing housing costs frees up the most money to put toward your goals. When you implement all these strategies consistently, reaching that first 100,000 transforms from a distant dream into an inevitable outcome. It's not about making perfect decisions every single day. It's about building systems that work automatically, even when motivation fades or life gets complicated. Remember, the first 100,000 is special because it's where momentum really starts building. Once you reach that milestone, compound interest becomes a much more noticeable force in your financial life. Your investments start earning real money, not just pocket change. That's when building wealth starts feeling less like pushing a boulder uphill and more like riding a wave. Your first $100,000 isn't the finish line. It's the moment the game tilts in your favor. From there, getting to $500,000 or even $1 million stops being a fantasy and starts becoming a math problem. The path to financial independence isn't complicated, but it does require patience, consistency, and willingness to make some unconventional choices. Most people will continue living paycheck to paycheck, spending everything they earn, and hoping that somehow their financial situation will magically improve. But you have the knowledge and tools to write a different story. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Every dollar you save and invest now is a gift to that person you'll become in 10, 20, or 30 years. The question is, what kind of gift are you going to give? If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe because I'll be sharing more strategies to help you build wealth and create the financial future you deserve.